Right, in this section we're going to talk about different ways we can classify alcohols. We've got primary, secondary, and tertiary. So a primary alcohol, which we commonly denote with this 1 degree, we say primary when you see this, is anytime you have a carbon atom with an alcohol group that's attached to only one other carbon atom. Secondary, the carbon that has the alcohol group is attached to 2 other carbon atoms. And then tertiary, the carbon with the alcohol is attached to 3 other carbon atoms. So the chemical reactions that these alcohols undergo are dependent on what type of alcohol they are. So this first example is just methanol. If we look at the carbon that the alcohol is attached to, it's not attached to any other carbon. If we look at the second example, the carbon that the alcohol is attached to one other carbon group. Remember, R represents a carbon chain, so that's primary. This next example, the carbon with the OH group is attached to 2 other carbon groups, so that's secondary. Here, carbon with OH has 3 R groups, or 3 other carbons, which is tertiary. So here's an example. This alcohol is classified as primary, secondary, tertiary, or quaternary, which we didn't even talk about. It's not possible to have a quaternary alcohol, so we can get rid of that one. So if we look at the alcohol, it's attached to this carbon, which is attached to 3 other carbons. So 3 other carbons would call this tertiary. Here's another practice problem. So this is going to give you practice going from name to structure and then deciding whether it's primary, secondary, or tertiary. So let's do this first one together. So 1-pentanol. So 5 carbons is your pent. OH is on number 1. So that means I'm going to be looking at this carbon that the OH is attached to, and it's attached to 1 other carbon. So that means this is going to be primary. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can assign classifications for the other 3. All right, the second example, we've got 2-pentanol. So again, 5 carbons. The alcohol is on the second carbon. So if I look at that second carbon that the OH is attached to, it's attached to 2 other carbons. So that makes this secondary. Third one, we've got 2-methyl-1-butanol. So but is 4. Methyl on carbon 2, alcohol on carbon 1. So if we look at the carbon that the OH is attached to, it's attached to 1 other carbon. So that makes this primary. In this last example, 2-methyl-2-pentanol, we've got our 5 carbons. Methyl on carbon 2, alcohol also on carbon 2. So now if I look at the carbon that the OH is attached to, it's attached to 3 other carbons. So that makes this tertiary.